Alright guys, let me tell you a little bit of what's going on with this air conditioner and what's led me to go ahead. Let me start that again. Hey guys, let me explain a little bit before we get into this video. Just explain what the symptoms were before I decided to go ahead and buy a motor to replace it in this air conditioner. So a customer called me that his air conditioner was making noise, but it was not spinning. It wasn't blowing any kind of air at all. So that leads to two things. It can be a bad capacitor inside the air conditioner, which is easy to test with a multimeter. You just have to unplug the wires to it, create a short on the capacitor itself, and have a way to measure it with the multimeter. But in this case, his capacitors, all of them, I went ahead and tested all three, checked out perfectly fine. There was no issue with that. The motor, it was an older unit. His RV was 2008, if I'm not mistaken. But the air conditioner's last this whole time. It's all original parts on the air conditioner, and the motor, you could tell, was quite rusted, and it was just locked up. All I did was spin it free, it broke loose, and it was working. But with him trying to start it, if you run into that you turn the air conditioner on and you hear it humming but not blowing any air, shut it off immediately, just because you don't want the motor to try to spin and not do anything, and it can cause it to overheat and start melting from the inside out. So just immediately shut it off and have somebody check it out. So in this case, that's what was going on. When I got up top, removed the cover, the motor was just really stiff, so it was just a dead giveaway that the motor was the issue. But again, I did test all the capacitors, which checked out fine. So I went ahead and ordered a motor, and this video shows you how to swap the motor on this specific Coleman Mach air conditioner. So let's get right to it. Alright guys, so this job's going to be on top of an RV. Sorry about the wobbling, that's just the camera since the roof is so soft. But first things first, remove that shroud, and then we're going to release the motor by removing those 5 screws on that bracket that are holding it against that wall there, and then the 2 on the floor, and that releases the whole motor. But to be able to remove the motor completely from that box, from that hole, you have to remove that fan blade. So you'll see I have to get an Allen wrench to loosen that up. You'll see how that I'll pry it with a little screwdriver a little bit. You could spray something in there like WD-40 or something like that. But in this case, just prying it little by little and tapping on the fan blade help take that blade off. Alright, with the blade out of the way, I can take the motor out of that hole. And then I'll do the same thing and remove that squirrel cage on the opposite side. So it's the same clamp as the fan blade, so you use the same Allen wrench to remove that squirrel cage. Sorry I didn't notice that the camera was out of focus, so I readjusted to show you what I was doing next. So it has these 4 screws that are holding the motor to this metal piece here, the 4 nuts on this side. So you see I'm just using a channel lock because these nuts aren't really held that tight, and I have to go down and look for a wrench. The channel lock does just fine. So just release those 4 nuts and the motor will pop out. Alright, after changing the angle of the camera so you can see what I'm doing, all I have to do here is remove the strap that holds all the capacitors in place, because this motor comes with a new capacitor, so I will replace that one capacitor. Then I'm just back feeding those wires so that I can have the wires handy for the new motor. So after putting the motor on that metal plate with those 4 nuts and tightening it down, I'll put the squirrel cage back on it and tighten down that clamp so that it holds in place. Alright, I'll put that lower bracket that holds the motor against the floor. Make sure it doesn't tilt down or anything. I'll take advantage to do it now while I have more room to work with. And after feeding the wires through that hole so I have everything ready to rewire, I'll go ahead and put the motor in place so I can go ahead and start putting things together. The only thing to keep in mind with this air conditioner is that when you're going to put this fan blade, make sure you don't tighten the motor in place, because if not, you're going to have to remove it to tuck that fan in that hole, and then you put the motor in place so you can put it together. If you don't do this, if you first mount the motor, you'll see the fan blade will not go behind that shaft, and it'll be tricky, so you have to take the whole thing apart again. So just make sure first put the fan blade inside the hole so you can redirect the motor, mount the motor, and then put the fan blade on it. If you did it backwards, you'll understand what I mean. Not a big deal, just unmount the motor so you can fit the blade behind there and then put the motor back on. Alright, so once I have everything done and wired up, I have the customer run down so that he can test it, make sure it's working as it's supposed to, before I continue with the whole process. After confirming it all works, I go ahead and tape up those connectors, and I just close up the box because we're done. The last step, I'll just put the shroud on, and I'll have them retest everything before I take off to make sure it is working as it's supposed to. That's it. Have a good day.